Yeah, I'm sorry I had to go erase this video. I had to erase that video that I did back in March because it's embarrassing for me to do a live show by reading it off my phone. Let me go do this. Let me go do this the way it's supposed to be done. About Mr. Jerome Young, who's also known as New Jack. We'll take it straight to him. It's all about New Jack. I had to do a prequel, of that previous live show that I had to add a race. So I gotta I gotta build it back up again. This here is Mr. Jerome Young. He was a professional wrestler, American professional wrestler, who was better known by his ring name New Jack. He was best known for his time with Extreme Championship Wrestling, where he became notorious for his willingness to take dangerous bumps and for his stiff, hardcore wrestling style, often taking high risks and known for shooting on opponents. For his example, for the example, his altercation with a known wrestler named Gypsy Joe, whose real name is Gilberto Melendez. Well, he's Puerto Rican, so goes right back in 2003. But well, that's what's about here. Let me do it again. See, for example, his altercation with Gilberto Melendez, who was also known professionally as Gypsy Joe. You know, I mean, the man was so known in the Tennessee area. You know what I mean? Guys are OG like hippie type of, not hippie, but he's like a OG like wrestler coming from Puerto Rico. You know, I mean, then he ends up residing in somewhere else. Probably he was known for having that success. He was still attaining much of his U.S. success that was in the Tennessee area, and even though it was what he was known to do. So the guy is old. The guy's an OG. Let me take you to what happened in 1996 when New Jack was a key figure in the mass transit incident that he is so also known for being the only wrestler to have had his entrance music. It's called Natural Born Killers by Ice Cube and Dr. Dre to play throughout his matches in the ECW. After the promotion closed in 2001, Young spent the rest of his career on the independent circuit until his death in May of 2021. We're gonna start. Let's go to into the early life here. Oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't know he was from North Carolina, so it doesn't say he was from. It doesn't say that he was from Atlanta. He was from Greensboro. So let me take you to his early life here. That I had to read to you viewers. Jerome Young was born on January the 3rd, 1963 in Greensboro, North Carolina. Meanwhile, in 1968, in 1968, when he was 5 years old, he and his siblings witnessed his father stab his mother multiple times after he found out she had been cheating on him with other men. 5 months later, he shot her in the leg when she tried to leave and take Young with her. His father died of a heart attack later in the year. He and his mother moved frequently across the state of Georgia, usually trying to stay a step or two ahead of landlords seeking to evict them. He attended various schools before finally before finally graduating from Atlanta's D.M. Terrell High School in 1981. There, Young had a measure of success in football, which led to him attending Clark Atlanta University. Around the age of 15, Young and his friends began robbing local stores such as gas stations, sporting goods stores, and jewelry stores. Yeah, the jewelry stores, which that they're about to rob. They were eventually caught, and Young spent 2 years in prison for aggravated robbery. After his release, he worked briefly as a truck driver before spending the next decade as a bounty hunter. Yeah, a bounty hunter, which that nobody else wanna hear for what New Jack was gonna tell them in the interviews. He doesn't want to know anything else about how he was spending the next decade as a bounty hunter. Wait, let me take you to the professional wrestling career of Jerome New Jack Young right here. See, this is around his start here. The United States Wrestling Association, yes, the USWA, the United States Wrestling Association, uh, that was from 1992 to 1993, when Young was trained under a man who was a professional wrestler, goes by the name of Ray Canty, who was also better known by the ring name Ray Candy, and debuted in 1992 in the Memphis, Tennessee-based United States Wrestling Association is where he adopted the ring name. He adopted the ring name New Jack that was inspired and derived by the 1991 film New Jack City. This movie here. This is the movie that was like an American crime action film that Mario Van Peebles had directed, and Thomas Lee Wright and Barry Cooper had written. It's all based on a story. In June of 1993, he won his first championship, the USWA World Tag Team Championship, with his partner, who I never even heard of before, Homeboy. by defeating another wrestler who goes by the name of Simply Divine, who had to be well done. Well, well done was like a name. Well, Simply Divine was already in it. It was in a tag team. I did not even know who Simply Divine is. Why you put Simply Divine there? And he has says Well Done, who's also known as the Southern Rockers. That's like it was like a pro wrestling tag team who have competed in several promotions in the U.S. But the team that was composed of Rex King and Steve Dahl. They like the team of Well Done. I think Simply Divine was already like I don't know where the tag team was coming from. I don't know. It looked like a tag team. I don't even know. By defeating by defeating Simply Divine and holding the title for 2 weeks before losing it to another wrestler who goes by the name of C.W. Bergstrom, who is now semi-retired from wrestling, and another wrestler who goes by the name of Melvin Penrod Jr. But Young Young had remained with the company until the end of the summer. What was this other wrestling company here that's not even in business anymore? It was the North Georgia Wrestling Alliance from 1993 to 1994. After leaving Memphis, Young, who's also known as New Jack, had moved to Atlanta and wrestled for the North Georgia Wrestling Alliance and won their heavyweight championship. But in early 1994, he paired with a former WCW enhancement talent who goes by the name of Mustafa Saeed, whose real name was Jamal Mustafa, and formed a name of a tag team that's known as the Gangstas that can become a professional wrestling tag team and stable. As they're winning the NGWA Tag Team Championship in July of 1994, but quickly quickly vacated them as they left the territory and headed off to Smoky Mountain Wrestling. New Jack earned his name working for Jim Cornette, whose real name is James Mark Cornette, who is an American author, sports historian, and podcaster, who had previously worked in the wrestling industry as an agent, booker, color commentator, manager, photographer, promoter, trainer, and occasional professional wrestler. In a company that was no longer around is Smoky Mountain Wrestling. New Jack had formed a wrestling crew that was called the Gangsters. It was called the Gangsters. Um, he toured the South and was normally squared off against the Southern Babyface tag team that I had a lot of respect for. The Rock and Roll Express here. This is an old picture they have. That's Richard Morton and Robert Gibson. These guys have since retired now. So they used to work for the company right before they went on to WCW. So New Jack's partner was Jamal Mustafa, who had to be Mustafa Saeed. By the time the gangsters are leaving the company, but let me see how they were going. Let's see how they were going to. So from the 1995 to 2001 time period, they went to Extreme Championship Wrestling. See, before it became the Extreme Championship Wrestling, it was the National Wrestling Alliance Eastern Championship Wrestling. That was from like 1992. That roses from the ashes of Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. That was used to be owned by Joel Goodhart. Moving on. In June 1995, the Gangsters joined the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania-based Extreme Championship Wrestling promotion, debuting for the promotion as a villainous tag team, a heel tag team, by attacking the Public Enemy, known of Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge, at their pay-per-view, barbed wire, hoodies, and choke slams. On June 17th, 1995, the Gangsters made their ECW in-ring debut at Hardcore Heaven by competing against the Public Enemy, not the rap group, just a tag team, in a losing effort. Yeah, that's how they're competing against the Public Enemy in a losing effort. The two teams engaged in a lengthy rivalry that and traded the wins against each other throughout the year. The, with the feud with the feud ending in a street fight at their pay-per-view house party, which the Public Enemy won. Public Enemy departed ECW after the event, thus ending the rivalry. Well, Public Enemy, they just left and gone to WCW anyway. So yeah, they left and gone to WCW, I think. But at their CyberSlam pay per view, at their CyberSlam pay per view that take place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it's the old arena right there. So it used to have these shows. Uh, that was at the old arena there. So see, that arena was already been like that place was still there. Uh, that was around the corner of Rittner, so corner of Rittner and Swanson. I think it was in Philadelphia. So CyberSlam 1996, man, the pay per view had take place in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So the Gangsters were scheduled to compete in a match against another tag team was called the Headhunters, that were like a professional wrestling tag team, a pro wrestling tag team that who have consists of the American twin brothers like Manuel and Victor Santiago. They were known by their respective ring names like Headhunter A and B. But Jack was imprisoned in Atlanta, and Mustafa was attacked by the Headhunters, uh, Headhunter A and B. Jack returned to ECW on March the 8th, I think was of 1996, at this pay-per-view. There you go, show me the same fucking building. See, there's a building here. There's a building that the ECW had their pay-per-view at. That was at the Lost Battalion Hall. That was in Queens, New York. Also like March 8th and night. See, the building was already there. So yeah, let me explain to you how New Jack had returned to ECW on March the 8th, 1996, and March 9th of 1996 at a big ass Extreme Bash to rescue Mustafa Saeed from an assault by the Headhunters, resulting in the Gangsters turning into fan favorites. Like, the fans just loved them so much, and they were cheered and loved and respected a little bit. The Gangsters, you can tell me how they have done their thing. They began by pursuing the ECW World Tag Team Championship and enter into a rivalry with the tag team champions, the Eliminators. There was there was inconsistence of it's the Eliminators right here. This is an old picture they have of them. That's Perry Saturn. That's Perry Saturn, who is still alive, and George Cayasso, who is also known as uh, John Cronus, I think. See, see, this is an old photo of Perry Satulo, who's also known as Perry Saturn, but he been in the wrestling business since 1990. This is all they got going on with these guys. And believe me, the gangsters have received like several title shots against the Eliminators, but they came up short. At at the other pay-per-view here. Oh, back to the fucking building. Fight the power. It's a pay-per-view that that was already been added. We explained to you about the Samoan Gangsters Party, who's who's already been known as the Samoan SWAT team. They were like a professional wrestling tag team and a stable. And the consistence of LA Smooth, whose real name was Lloyd Anoa'i. Lloyd Anoa'i, he probably kin to Roman Reigns and Rikishi and a few of them. And Sammy the Silk, he probably kin to Sammy the Silk would have to be Samuel Fred Anoa'i. Well, he probably kin to Roman Reigns, I think, and the Wild Samoans. But the Gangsters Party, the Samoan Gangsters Party, that that was formerly the Samoan SWAT team. Their names of L.A. Smooth, name of L.A. Smooth and Sammy the Silk, whose real names were Lloyd and Samuel Anoa'i. They made their ECW debut by attacking the Gangsters. The Samoan Gangster Party cost the Gangsters another title shot against the Eliminators. against the Eliminators at Hardcore Heaven. Yep, it was in June of 1996, I think. The Gangsters then faced the Samoan Gangsters Party in a match at Heatwave 1996 that took place on July the 13th, 1996. It came out right after Hardcore Heaven in June of 1996, June 22nd, 1996. There's only two of them. It's only two pay-per-views. Let me explain it to you again. The Gangsters then faced the Samoan Gangsters Party, who had to be the Anoa'i brothers. Had to be the Anoa'i brothers. They're formerly the Samoan SWAT team. In a match at Heatwave, which had ended in a brawl between those teams, both teams. The Gangsters they feuded with the Eliminators, made of Saturn and Cronus. The Samoan Gangster Party that was made of the Anoa'i brothers. I don't even know they're kin to I don't know these guys. I gotta find out these guys were kin to Roman Reigns and whatnot. These guys had to be kin to their to Roman Reigns and the Wild Samoans. I don't even know. The Gangsters feuded with the Eliminators, uh, the Samoan Gangster Party, and the the Bruise Brothers. The Bruise Brothers. They're known as Donald and Ronald Harris. This is before their WCW run. They were in the ECW at the period. And it led to a four-way dance between the four teams at a 1996 pay-per-view, The Doctor is In. The event had took place on August the 3rd, 1996, in which the Gangsters won to capture their first World Tag Team Championship. The Gangsters successfully defended the title against the teams such as the Samoan Gangster Party, the Eliminators, the whole fucking show, Rob Van Dam, and Sabu, rest in peace, throughout the year. I'm sorry that I'm sorry that I had to do this. Really sorry. I'm really sorry that I had to do that. It's on me. Let me take you to whatever happened on late 1996 here. New Jack was involved in the mass transit incident. Yes, the mass transit incident on November the 23rd, 1996, in Revere, Massachusetts. The Gangsters were scheduled to face the likes of Devon Dudley, whose real name is Devon Hughes, and the late Axel Rotten, whose real name was Brian Knighton. Rotten missed the show and was replaced with Mass Transit, whose real name is Eric Kulas. An untrained 17-year-old who had convinced Booker Paul Heyman, who was Paul E. Dangerously at the time, that Kulas had Kulas. That's what Eric Kulas was telling people. He was an untrained 17-year-old kid who had convinced Booker Paul Heyman that he was 21, even though he lied about his age anyway. He falsified his documentation anyway, and had been trained by the late Walter Killer Kowalski, who had to be uh, Wladek Kowalski, or he's Canadian. Kulas Kulas had requested that New Jack would blade him during the match, but the incision was made incorrectly, causing excessive bleeding. Kulas was hospitalized as a result, eventually receiving 50 stitches. New Jack was charged with aggravated assault stemming from the incident, but he was acquitted. He was acquitted like O.J. Simpson would do. Because Kulas has been asking New Jack to cut him, like that gig him 1, 2, 3 more. Kulas have subsequently sued New Jack and ECW for damages that was done to him in July of 1998, but lost the case. Eric Kulas died on May the 12th, 2002, at the age of 22, due to complications from the gastric bypass surgery. The Gangsters, they lost the World Tag Team Championship back to the Eliminators on the January 4th, 1997 episode of Hardcore TV, ending their reign at 139 days. Gangsters have feuded with the Eliminators and the Dudley Boys. That was made of Mark LaMonaco and Devon Hughes over the title for the next several months at Heatwave 1997, the very fourth Heatwave professional wrestling live event that ECW had produced, and took place on July the 19th, 1997. The Gangsters defeated the Dudley Boys in a steel cage match. Yeah, we say it correctly. The Gangsters, they defeated the Dudley Boys in a steel cage match to capture their second World Tag Team Championship. But Mustafa Saeed, New Jack's tag team partner, left ECW after the title win, leading to the dissolution of the Gangsters the following month at Hardcore Heaven 1997. Uh, another wrestling event that took place on August the 17th, 1997. But it was months after what is it, the pay-per-view called the Buffalo Invasion in May of 1997. The following month, at Hardcore Heaven 1987, the Dudleys were returned the championship, forfeited by Saeed's departure. Let's go to the Gangstanators. It's a little mix of them, dude. The departure of Mustafa Saeed and Perry Saturn from ECW had led New Jack to form a new tag team with former Eliminator John Cronus. It was called the Gangstanators on the August the 21st of 1997 by defeating the Dudley Boys, the Dudleys. The team debuted on television on the September 20th, 1997 episode of Hardcore TV. When Cronus earned a title shot, he earned a title shot at the ECW World Tag Team Championship by defeating the Dudleys. And then Jack showed up as his tag team partner. Yeah, he showed up as his tag team partner, but they received their title shot at As Good as It Gets that took place on September the 20th, 1997. Same same as the hardcore TV show is where the Gangstanators defeated the Dudley Boys to win the World Tag Team Championship, marking Jack's third title reign, yeah, his third tag team title reign. But they lost the belts to the full-blooded Italians, the FBI. It was made of James Moriarty, who's also known as Little Guido, and another guy who is no longer with us, Mr. Tracy Stanton Smothers. He's like a Southern, American professional wrestler, man. That man was known to bring that Confederate flag with him everywhere he goes. All the way to the state, to Tennessee, Texas, any other state that man can go. That man can go wherever he wants. If anybody steps in the ring with him, everybody dies. Off to the November 1st, 1997 episode of Hardcore TV. They defeated the Hardcore Chair Swinging Freaks, made of Axel Rotten, who had to be Brian Knighton, and Balls Mahoney, who had to be Jonathan Reckner. Well, rest in peace to both of them. And the Dudley Boys in a three-way dance at Fright Fight and received a rematch for the title against FBI, the Freaks, and Dudleys in a four-way dance at the November to Remember 1997. It took place on November the 30th of that year. But let alone lost, the Gangstanators, they resumed their feud with the Dudley Boys as the two teams competed in a match at the 1998 House Party pay-per-view that was taking place. It was taking place. Let me go read this shit, okay? God. I gotta start this over, man. You see the reminders are ruining my reputation here. The Gangstanators resumed their feud with the Dudley Boys as the two teams competed in a match at the 1998 House Party, which the Dudleys won. It was this pay-per-view that took place it took place on January the 10th, 1998, I think. The Gangstanators formed an alliance with Spike Dudley, whose real name was Matthew Hyson, the estranged brother of the Dudleys, at the Living Dangerously pay-per-view that took place in May of in I think it will take place in May, but it took place on March the first. It was aired March 1st, 1998. That was from the Asbury Park Convention Hall in Asbury Park, New Jersey. New Jack and Spike Dudley defeated the Hardcore Chair Swinging Freaks and the Dudley Boys in a three-way dance. Jack then lost to Bam Bam Bigelow, whose real name was Scott Bigelow, rest in peace, at the WrestlePalooza 1998 pay-per-view here. It took place on May the 3rd of that year. Jack began emerging as the singles competitor that he was while feuding with the Dudley Boys, and then this led to Jack and Cronus quietly dissolving the Gangstanators and going their separate ways as we speak, as Jack more frequently teamed with Spike Dudley. Yeah, he's just as crazy as he can possibly be, bro. To feud with the Dudley Boys, Spike's is the Spike's now estranged brothers. But at the end of the day, they will all still be friends. But they're not even like real brothers. They were all friends. They were all friends. Uh, Lomanico, Hughes, and Hyson, they're all friends. New Jack began dragging in a garbage can full of weapons and throwing it into the ring as a sort of ultra violent trash bag. We're going to singles competition here. Uh, New Jack's feud with the Dudley Boys continued. Yeah, let's start what happened here. New Jack, see his feud with the Dudley Boys had continued in 1999 as he teamed with Spike Dudley to lose to them and at the guilty as charged 1999 that took place on January the 10th of that year. At Crossing the Line 1999 that took place on February the 12th of that year. Jack brought out his former Gangsters tag team partner Mustafa Saeed to compete against the Dudley Boys, but Mustafa turned on Jack by smashing a guitar on his head and revealed himself to be the mysterious benefactor of the Dudleys, who wanted to run the Public Enemy and New Jack out of ECW. As a result, Jack began a rivalry with Mustafa afterwards, which culminated which have culminated in a match between the two at uh, at Living Dangerously 1999 that took place on March the 21st of that year, which Jack had won. At CyberSlam 1999 that took place on April 3rd of that year, Jack teamed with the Hardcore Chair Swinging Freaks, Axel Rotten and Balls Mahoney, losing an Ultimate Jeopardy match to Mustafa and the Dudleys afterward. Jack drove Mustafa through a table with a diving splash from the top of the cage. Man, Jack was out of action for the next few months until he returned to ECW at Heatwave 99. Heatwave 1999 that used to took place at the Hera Arena. It was in a Hera Arena. It was in a Hera Arena that was took place in Dayton, Ohio. So on July the 18th of 1999, that is where he attacked the Dudley Boys with the weapons from a shopping cart that he rolled to the ring. On the October 22nd, on the October 22nd episode of ECW on TNN, which was already been shown here. This is what it says here. ECW, yeah, it says ECW on TNN. It's also known as ECW Wrestling. Jack received his first opportunity for the World Heavyweight Championship against Michael Alfonso, who's also known as Mike Awesome, but failed to win the title. Well, it took place on October of what do you call that shit? October the 22nd. This long before this shit happened. I don't even know it was. I don't even know that pay per view was going to take place. I don't know that show was going to take place in 2000. Shit. On the November 5th episode of ECW on TNN. I don't know it's from. Shit. I gotta find this out. Yep. Oh yeah, it was in 1999, I think. It was. Oh, I forgot. It was October the 22nd, 1999. That's where ECW and TNN happened. Uh, no, see, let me explain it to you here. On the November the 5th, 1999 episode of ECW on TNN, Jack had rescued the hardcore chair swinging freaks from an attack by the Baldies that was names of the Spanish Angel, who happened to be Angel Medina, who was known they always called him Angel. Vito Lagrasso, who had to be Big Vito. Tony DeVito, who had to be Anthony DeVito. And Vic Grimes, who was known as Victor Grimes. Yeah, they're the Baldies. It's all four of them. But Angel stapled Jack in the eyes. This led to a lengthy rivalry between Jack and Angel over the unofficial title. It's called the King of the Streets. The two battled back and forth over the matter in the bloody street fights. One of ECW's television's One of ECW television's most gruesome moments was when, in the course of a match, Angel used New Jack's staple gun, which that he often wore around his neck, with a chain against him, stapling him in the eye. Referees called the match off. They called the match off. They called off the match. And New Jack had disappeared from the air for many months. New Jack returned by the end of 1999 with his eye seemingly recovered, now sporting a scythe around his neck, claiming that he had upgraded the staple gun. Their first encounter was at November to Remember, where Jack and the Freaks, where Jack and the Freaks lost to the Baldies in a handicap match at the 2000 Guilty as Charged pay-per-view that took place on that year. It took place on January the 9th, 2000, when Jack had lost a singles match to Angel due to the interference by the Baldies at the 2000 Living Dangerously, yeah, the Living Dangerously pay-per-view 2000 here, uh, that took place on March the 12th, 2000. It was live on pay-per-view in Danbury, Connecticut, on the date of March 12th, 2000, when New Jack suffered serious injuries during a match against Vic Grimes involving a bump that required them to jump and fall 15 feet from a scaffold mere seconds before the jump. Grimes became reluctant. Grimes became reluctant, with capital R reluctant, to take this very risky bump, and New Jack, annoyed with Grimes's reluctance because of the live broadcast, they had no time to improvise, dragged Grimes down with him after a count of three, like one, two, and three, and Grimes awkwardly fell half a second after Jack, instead of falling together in the safest fashion. They fell off the scaffold, missed the tables that that were supposed to absorb the force of their fall, and landed on the concrete floor with Grimes landing on New Jack's head. New Jack suffered brain damage, a broken leg, a skull fracture, and resulting in a permanent insomnia. That's what word. What does it mean? Resulting in permanent insomnia. Resulting in permanent what's this? What's called it? Resulting in permanent insomnia. What the hell is that, man? And was permanently blinded in his right eye that he can't even see in his right eye. So, and he spent 6 months recovering. But while injured, even while the injured Jack defeated the Baldies, later Angel, in a match 2 months later in Hardcore Heaven 2000, that took place on May the 14th, 2000. But he appeared at Heatwave 2000 that took place on July the 16th, 2000. This is where all the shit happened with the XPW guys start showing up at the pay-per-view. They have feud that happened between them. ECW and XPW. So this is what happened when some XPW guys, they teasing the hell out of Francine, bro. They be chanting like, pull your shirt up or something like, you want to show us your tits type of shit. Let me explain it to you. When New Jack appeared at Heatwave 2000 that took place on July the 16th of 2000, where he appeared on the crutches, and Angel had stapled him with his staple gun in the forehead until Nova, who would have to be Michael Bucci, and Chris Chetty who is now retired from wrestling, had made the save and defeated the Baldies in a tag team match. Jack was so out of action for the next few months, he returned to the to ECW on the September 22nd episode. Yeah, the September 22nd, 2000 episode of ECW on TNN, where he rescued Spike Dudley. He rescued Spike Dudley from an assault by Just Incredible, whose real name was Peter Polacco, and Rhino, whose real name was Terrence Jaron, but was double teamed by the two. Jack was named the number one contender for Rhino's World Television Championship at November to Remember 2000 on November the 5th, on November the 5th, 2000 in the Odeum Expo Center in Villa Park, Illinois, is where he failed to win the title. In his last ECW match, Jack defeated longtime rival Angel on the December 17th episode of Hardcore TV. It was on December 17th, 2000. This was days before Christmas. When Jack remained with the promotion. Yeah, Jack had remained with the promotion, which was closed due to bankruptcy. A month later, in January of 2001. After ECW had declared bankruptcy, yeah, after ECW declared bankruptcy in April of 2001, New Jack began wrestling on the independent circuit. In 2001 and in 2002, he wrestled for Extreme Pro Wrestling, as XPW, as XPW. And in 2003, he made multiple appearances TNA, with TNA Wrestling, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, um, and another wrestling organization. It was called Combat. It's called Combat Zone Wrestling, as CZW, and competing in the Cage of Death 5. It was Combat Zone Wrestling's biggest show since 1999. But in 2004, by 2004, Jack appeared in IWA. That's International Wrestling. What do you call that? But IWA. Um, and WWE in dark matches. He appeared in IWA and WWE in dark matches, but he worked the ECW reunion show, Hardcore Homecoming, that took place on June 10th, 2005. But this was before the ECW reunion pay-per-view, One Night Stand, it was on June 12th, 2005. As well as competing on the Extreme Reunion tour from September 15th to the 16th of 2005. The XPW freefall incident. Let's go explain this now. In February 2002, Jack met Vic Grimes he met Victor Grimes in a scaffold match at XPW's freefall event. As the final maneuver of the match, Jack shocked Grimes with a taser that he had spent his money on and bought. He bought that taser. Yeah, New Jack spent his money on that. He spent his money on that taser. He bought it. right before throwing him, right before throwing Grimes from the scaffold and sending him crashing to the ring, to the ring 40 feet below. There were over 12 tables stacked on top of each other in the ring to break the fall, which Grimes had missed but all but two, and came within a foot of missing the ring completely, which could have killed him. Grimes broke his fall on the top rope, dislocating his ankle, among other injuries, in the 2005 documentary Forever Hardcore. Here, it was a series of wrestling events which were advertised as a reunion of talent from the defunct ECW promotion. And the 2020 episode of Vice TV's Dark Side of the Ring centered around him. Jack claimed that this was a break from the script, and he intended to throw Grimes so hard that he would fall headfirst onto the steel turnbuckle and be killed. This was done according to Jack. Yeah, this was this one is this was done according to Jack over a grudge based on Grimes not contacting him when he was recovering from his injuries after that fall in Danbury, Connecticut. However, Art O'Donnell, who was a writer for Wrestle Crap, it was a it was a it was a wrestling website that was created by a man named R.D. Reynolds and Merle Vincent. It disputes this. They have disputed this by, Art O'Donnell and a few other guys. Well, the main two people that ran the Wrestle Crap site is is R.D. Reynolds and Justin Henry. Okay, they ran that site. So, however, see, Art O'Donnell, who was a Wrestle Crap writer, have disputed this, citing Jack's apparent concern for Grimes' safety. Grimes' safety in a previous match for XPW and how intentional the spot had seemed. Uh, the incident with Gypsy Joe, we can, I can get to that now. Let me see how many hours I've had to take. Oh, just one. The Gypsy Joe incident in April 2003. New Jack participated in a hardcore match with veteran wrestler Gilberto Melendez, who's also known as Gypsy Joe. Before the match, Jack met Joe and asked the booker of the show what he was supposed to do with him. Jack was told Gypsy Joe as tough. Yeah, that's what happened. This is what's mentioned. It says Jack was told by saying that Gypsy Joe is as tough as leather. And Jack replied that he was not going to lose dollar value from this match and would not have a comedy or a gimmick match, but that he would kill Joe in the match. For unknown reasons, Joe continuously no sold New Jack during that match. During that match, Joe headbutted Jack in the nose. Jack then got angry with Joe and decided to get the genuine sells by legitimately attacking the 69-year-old man with a chain, a framed picture of his aunt, and there's a baseball bat that was wrapped in barbed wire. He could have done it. He could have done it anyway. And several other weapons. The crowd horrified by Jack's savage beating up this man either left the show in disgust or started calling Jack, how to say it. Yeah, man just called Jack a nigga. Like, let me see what Jack would say. Mama's nigga, bitch. Let me go repeat what New Jack said. Your mama's a nigga, bitch. Fuck you in my house, scream faggot. Yeah, I gotta go repeat what he had to say. But in an interview, for uh, Dark Side of the Ring, that was from Vice TV in 2019, that Jack has stated by saying, "The more they call me a nigga, the angrier I got, and the more I beat the guy up." Shit. What else would he do to stab somebody? Oh, William Jason Lane, the stabbing of William Jason Lane. Let me see what go happen with this incident regarding the William Jason thing. Uh, in October 2004, New Jack was wrestling for some independent wrestling company, and it was called the Thunder Wrestling Federation. It was scheduled he was scheduled to fight a fellow wrestler that he later stabbed, that he almost killed, William Jason Lane, at an event near Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville, Florida. Um, During the match, Lane, to New Jack's surprise, began punching him in the face, legitimately, and landed a few blows. New Jack then pulled out a metal blade from his camouflage wrestling attire. I think it was some sort of a box cutter or something. And he stabbed Lane. He stabbed Lane multiple times. Let me tell you, New Jack had done something really, really violent. He stabbed Lane multiple times in the head with that metal blade. It looks like a fucking box cutter. New Jack stated that in a Vice documentary series, Dark Side of the Ring, that the news stated that he stabbed Lane about 16 times. He stabbed the motherfucker like 16 goddamn times with that pocket what's a pocket knife? It's a fucking box cutter. 16 times he stabbed William Jason Lane. Like, shit. Man, the man just almost fucking died. But New Jack stated that It was nine because he had counted them. This action caused New Jack to receive various felony charges, including for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and an aggravated assault to commit murder. To commit murder. New Jack claimed that the two met prior to the match and agreed to use a piece of metal to inflict injury. Despite this, a police officer who was recording the incident stated that it looked like it went past a routine wrestling match. The promoter of the event, the guy who was being interviewed on on the documentary, Mr. Maurice Williams, he claims that the event was never intended to be hardcore. New Jack announced his retirement on XPW's A Cold Day in Hell in 2008, though he continued working on independent shows. But in 2012, but in 2012, New Jack had competed for two wrestling promotions like Extreme Rising and Combat Zone Wrestling. His TNA run from 2003 to 2010. Um, During the year 2003, New Jack had wrestled occasional events for TNA Wrestling on April the 2nd, 2003, NWA TNA weekly pay-per-views, New Jack, Perry Saturn, and the Sandman, whose real name was James Fullington, defeated uh, Daniel Covell, who's also known as the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels. He's a AEW wrestler. I did not even know what's going to happen to him. But I heard that he's not even in the ring anymore. Looks like he's working for their talent relations department now. He's not going to be in the ring anytime soon anymore. And the Harris brothers, Ronald and Donald Harris. On the April 9th NWA TNA weekly pay-per-views, New Jack and Sandman lost a three-way match to the Harris brothers. The Harris brothers. On the April 16th, on the April 16th NWA TNA pay-per-view weekly, uh, they both, yeah, New Jack and the Sandman, they both lost to Brian Lee, who was now retired, and Slash, who was now retired. On the April the 23rd NWA TNA weekly pay-per-view, New Jack, Perry Saturn, and the Sandman defeated Brian Lee, Slash, the two guys who are now retired, and Mike Awesome, who is now deceased, in an Ultimate Sin match. On the May 7th NWA TNA weekly pay-per-view, New Jack competed in a three-way hardcore rules match which was won by the now deceased Sabu. On the May 21st NWA TNA weekly pay-per-view, New Jack and Shark Boy, Dean Roll, he lost to Ron Killings, who was now working for the WWE, and Don Harris in an Anarchy Alliance tag team match. Then he competed in the Hard 10 tournament by defeating Slash in the quarterfinals, then defeated Mike Sanders, who was another professional wrestler, and he's a stand-up comedian. He's like an ex-WCW wrestler. He's a comedian. In the semifinals, before losing in the finals to the Sandman, on the July 16th NWA TNA weekly pay-per-view by New Jack. He's also wearing a shark mask in Shark Boy. And Shark Boy, they both lost to the Harris brothers. They lost to the Harris brothers in what was New Jack's final TNA match. His final match in TNA in August the 8th, 2010. This is where he appeared on their ECW reunion show, Hardcore Justice, where he and Mustafa, they reunited though. Uh, they assaulted the Dudley Boys, which was Team 3D previously, and Joel Gertner, who was a former, um, the guy was a American wrestling announcer, color commentator, and manager who has been known for his appearances with the ECW from 1995 to 2001. But he was an in-ring announcer before he became a commentator and a manager. Replaced right before he became a manager and a commentator. So people want to call Joel Gertner a potential stud muffin. We could go to 2016, 2021 when he had to go back to the Indies. Uh, on April the 16th, 2016, New Jack had appeared and wrestled in for what's it called, Money Mark Productions, facing Brad Cash, who was in Lewisburg, Tennessee, on June the 11th. On June the 11th, 2016, New Jack was set to face former UFC star Philip Baroni. Philip George Baroni, who was a American MMA kickboxer and boxer and wrestler. He'd been competing in these places like UFC, Pride, Strikeforce, Cage Rage, Dream, Elite XC, Bellator MMA, Titan FC, Palace Fighting Championship, that's PFC, King of the Cage, and some other company that called it was One FC, I think. Yeah, he was set to face Philip George Baroni, who used to be working for the Ultimate Fighting Championship MMA company, which was now in the hands of Endeavor. In an unsanctioned match at a PWS event, the Pro Wrestling Syndicate, at the Starland Ballroom. It was located in Cyberville, New Jersey. In October, New Jack made an appearance at the Crushed 2 wrestling event in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he interfered in a match between Eugene and Tommy Lee Curtis, running out with a garbage can full of weaponry. New Jack New Jack had helped save Eugene from a beatdown and did a diving splash through a table to pin Tommy Lee Curtis, although he was only interfering throughout the match and not being an actual competitor. This was billed as his last appearance in the Midwest. Around that same year, when Young was walking home from a wrestling event, he collapsed and doctors found blood clots throughout his legs, back, and lungs, saying, "By with the heart trouble I already had, I could feel myself getting close to the final bell." In January, Jack was eliminated in a battle royal with White Mike, and Jack subsequently going on to defeat Mike in a singles match. In March, he teamed with a fellow ECW alumni, the Sandman and Just Incredible, in a winning effort at an ECW show. At the ECW show that was already taking place, uh, and made an appearance in VIP wrestling, where he defeated a Japanese wrestler by the name of Masada. In his final matches leading up to his death, Jack had faced fellow ECW alumni C.W. Anderson, who happened to be Christopher Wright, and Shane Douglas, the franchise, who happened to be Troy Martin. You see the old picture of him where the T-shirt has F on it. The F stands for the franchise. Yep, Jack had faced these fellow ECW alumni like Christopher Wright, who had to be C.W. Anderson, and Shane Douglas, who had to be Troy Martin before. Yeah, he was facing Christopher Wright and Troy Martin, who's also known as C.W. Anderson and Shane Douglas before taking time off due to the surgery at the hospital. But in other media here, it's gonna take like it will take like around 2 hours. Shit, it's gonna take like almost about 2 hours, but it's gonna be an hour and a half. So you have to fasten your seatbelts, folks. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. All right, in the video game, ECW Anarchy Rules, New Jack's theme song was recorded by William Bootsy Collins. He was in the JBs, I think. I remember. This man was in the JBs. You know what I'm saying? He was joined the Parliament Funkadelic Collective. So let me show you about this guy. His real name was William Earl Collins. They call him Bootsy. He's like an American bass guitarist, singer, songwriter, whatever. He was rising to prominence with James Brown in the early 70s before joining the Parliament Funkadelic Collective. But Collins had established himself as one of the leading names and innovators in funk music. It came with those unique lyrics. This was so unlike every other character's theme, in which had consisted of the cover versions of their real themes, like the real theme, "Natural Born Killers." It could not be featured because of the copyright issues from their record labels wouldn't be able to allow it. New Jack was featured in the 1999 wrestling documentary Beyond the Mat. In addition, he appeared in the TV series Early Edition on May the 6th, 2000 as a biker. In the episode is called Mel Schwartz, Bounty Hunter. He was also featured in the video games like Backyard Wrestling 2, There Goes the Neighborhood, and WWE 2K25. It was the latter as the downloadable content. New Jack is also the subject of an episode of the documentary series Dark Side of the Ring. An hour-long episode debuted on Vice on March the 31st, 2020. New Jack is referenced in the 1996 Weezer single El Scorcho with the line "Watching," grunge leg drop, New Jack through a press table. He is also referenced by a Harlem rapper who goes by the names of Smoke Dizza, who had to be Sean Joseph Pompey. It's on his album. It's called Rugby Thompson, along with the independent wrestler Jay Lover. New Jack made a guest appearance on the May 9th, 2014 episode of The Daily Show in a segment entitled Stay Out of School." It was called "Stay Out of School." It was like it's like a segment that was so entitled. Uh, this was courtesy of Comedy Central slash MTV. We're going to views, folks, about what's mentioned in this document in the documentary thing that they have. This little, it's a sit down interview that they had. Uh, it's all references. This came from the interview in 2008. I still kept that. It's an interview that came from a hotel that was it was in Tennessee or something, or Pennsylvania. But in 2008, Young Young had took part in a shoot interview with Khosrow Vaziri, who's also known as the Iron Sheik, Hassan uh, Vaziri, who had to be the Iron Sheik, the Honky Tonk Man, whose real name was Roy Wayne Ferris, where I'm telling you about how he took part in an interview with the Iron Sheik and the Honky Tonk Man, whose real names were Hassan Vaziri and Roy Ferris, where the Chris Benoit double murder suicide. Yeah, the Chris Benoit double murder and suicide was discussed. Young Young had commented that nothing could excuse. Yeah, that's what he said. Young had commented and said that he said that nothing could excuse what Benoit had done, and anybody in WWE or elsewhere defending Benoit or the wrestling business from the public scrutiny were hypocrites. He also thought that it was ironic and how ECW was seen as a violent and dangerous promotion where the drug use was so encouraged. Yet there was only one person who died during Young's 5-year tenure with the company, whereas WWE was averaging 3 deaths a year. In the same interview, Young had us yeah. What do you tell you what Young had did? Young had accused then WWE chairman and chief executive officer Vince McMahon of murder and falsifying wrestlers' drug tests. Young was critical of Paul Heyman as a promoter primarily due to Heyman's penchant for lying to his roster as for cheating them out of paychecks. In 2012, Young had criticized Lawrence Shreve, who's also known as Abdullah the Butcher, for using dirty blades on wrestlers and stating that Young was yeah, Young was HIV positive. We're going to a personal life right there because I do not even know how this shit happened. From the years 2009 to 2011, Young was in a relationship with former wrestling manager Terry Runnels, who was she was formerly known as the Miss Alexandra York character in WCW, and she was so known as the Marlena character in the WWE. After the relationship after the relationship had ended, Runnels had filed a lawsuit against Young for libel and to block distribution of sexually explicit photos that he had of Runnels. Young was married to Jennifer, who had to be his wife. One of his sons, a drag queen, by the name of Washington Heights, revealed in 2020 that Young had disowned him a few years earlier due to him being a drag queen. Well, Jennifer Young, that's his wife. So uh, Young have responded to the claims that stating that and saying that my son was mentioned in my book that came out last year. So the statement about me disowning him 3 years ago is simply not true. Heights has stated that after Young's death, that like words like he was proud of me. He wanted to fix things, but he didn't know how. But after retiring, Young regularly used prescribed painkillers to help with the pain from the various injuries he sustained during his career in 2016, where he collapsed while walking home from an event. He was diagnosed with the blood clots in his legs and back. In addition to the heart problems, Thomas Laughlin, Thomas Laughlin, who's also known as Tommy Dreamer, revealed that when he tried to book Young for his House of Hardcore promotion, Young has said that he was in poor health and often bedridden due to his heart problems and failing vision. I had to go through the sad parts. Oh, am I reading you? Am I reading too much? All right. On the afternoon, of May the 14th, 2021, Young died of a heart attack in his Greensboro, North Carolina home. That's where he was born in. That's the house that the town that he was living, the town that he was born in. Also, the house that he lived in. He was 58. He was 58 years old, man. We gotta go through a bunch of things here. He was like a one-time ACPW Hardcore champion. He was three-time ECW World Tag Team Champion. Twice with Mustafa, one with John. He was one-time NGWA Heavyweight Champion. He was a two-time NGWA Tag Team Champion. It was with Festus, who had to be Andrew Hankinson, who was also known as Doc Gallows, and Mustafa Saeed, who had to be his tag team partner. He was a one-time New Jack was like a one-time SMW Tag Team Champion once with Mustafa Saeed. He was a one-time UCW Hardcore Champion. He was a one-time USWA World Tag Team Champion with the Homeboy. With Homeboy, that's the name. Oh, his real name was Mark Kevin Freer. He used to wrestle as the AC Golden character. That was his ring name. And he was and He was ranked number 101 of the top 500 singles wrestlers in the PWI 500. He was ranked number 386 of the top 500 singles wrestlers of the PWI years. He was ranked in like 1997 and 2003. I think else about done. I think else about done here. Cause these reminders are ruining my rep. See, this one picture they have of New Jack. He was wearing he was wearing a T-shirt that has No Limit Soldiers. It has No Limit Soldiers on it. It's a cut up T-shirt. It says No Limit Soldiers. They had Silver Shocker on there. Mama the Tank, Mia X, Mia Young. Yeah, she was a mom with the tank. But I heard, hey, I mean, she went like, she was like bald headed or something. I never know what happened to her. She had hair, and all of a sudden, she had no hair now. But but she is alive. But she is alive and well. I have nothing else against her, man. She was like a sweetheart in the music business. You put this shit down there. Oh, I'm gonna put the name there. I'm glad to go put the name right there so I can get my mind off of shit. Had to erase that video and then had to erase the video and then I had to redo it. Don't worry. I got some other stories coming up soon, especially for Parliament Funkadelic. I might just I might just do another live show real soon or something. I do this live show after all this bullshit happened with this girl Irish. Fuck. That girl Irish kept causing a lot of problems with my sister, man. Shit. Yeah, Irish needs to get the fuck away from here, man. Ain't time and place for her, to be showing up. My sister had enough of Irish, starting all that trouble with her for no reason. Shit, we just came back from the Marriott, man. We just came back from the Marriott. We just came back from the Marriott like previous Friday. I had to do a live show after we came back from uh from the Marriott that was located in Metairie. It's enough. It's enough, man. Yeah, we're going to go move to another house so we won't so my sister will not have any more problems anymore. It's enough. It's enough. But, yeah. Hope Iris will just get the fuck away from here and go back to where the hell she came from, bro. Ain't the place for her to be causing all these problems with my sister, man. Seriously, that's like my aunt has said. Enough is a fucking enough, man. It's gonna be in her words. Enough about what's going on, lawyer. I gotta go dedicate this live show to into the memory of Mr. Jerome Young, also known as New Jack, born on January the 3rd, 1963, died on May 14th, 2021. Rest in peace, Jerome Young, also known as New Jack.